There you are. I got the first hand. Come here. Oh, come on. Oh. Be quiet now. Be a good girl. Go lay down. Oh goodness, we are live. Hi everyone. How are y'all? Sorry, I just posted a couple of comments into the comments section in the chat window. If you'd like to, please take a look at the links, some additional background. We had some videos before in the presentation. They don't always work out so well in these type of environments, but they're there now. When you get a moment, please click on those, take a look. It gives you a much better background, a much better experience, I guess, than I could possibly ever describe in this presentation. So, please take a look at those, and even more so, if you would, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll go into the details of what the Experimental Sounding Rocket Association is and all of those kind of stuff in the very near future. But anyways, if somebody could just post a quick note on there. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Is anyone actually out there? Shows we have 38 people already in. That's great. Just pop something into the chat for me. Doo-doo. Can anyone hear me? Oh, there we go. Okay. Holy cow. Now I'm getting you. Okay. Fantastic. All's working well. Lots and lots of comments. Great. Let's get started because I always run late. So I'll share my screen. Da-da-da. There we go. There we go. All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and get started. I will do my best to continue looking at comments and such as we're moving through this. So please don't hesitate to put a comment in there. But the way I've sort of situated it is I will basically bounce back and forth and look at comments as best I can. But towards the end, I will ask for questions. And we'll probably go long. Again, I always blab way too much. So if you're here, we are talking about Spaceport America Cup. We're going to go through an overview of what it is, its history, and future of the world's largest university rocketry competition. Go ahead and move down. Here's the last actual, we'll call it pre-COVID university, the ESRA competition that we had. This is our group photo. In the background is the Las Cruces Convention Center. We'll talk about the locations and those type of things, but it's a wonderful, fantastic event. We managed to jam 1,500 plus people into the convention center. It's the largest event they have there in Las Cruces at the convention center. So a challenging picture, photo, funny story about the photo. And we do this every year, and the number of student teams and students total continue to grow. But in this photo, if you look at the convention center in the background, it has a little patio cover off to the right. When this photo was taken, I was just running around the corner of that building because I was the guy assigned to flush everyone out to make sure they made it to the photo, and I didn't make it. And that's the third year in a row I managed to miss the group photo. If you look at the blue shirts in front, those are our beloved ESTRA volunteers. They're still smiling. They're still relatively clean, not sweaty and nasty and completely exhausted because we haven't gone out and actually started working at the launch event. So anyways, that's why they're still smiling. It is an exhausting event. All right. So our motto, how we, I guess, look at the overall mission is this saying: learn by doing. Very hands-on. We don't try to focus too much on the theoretical. We don't try to focus too much on we try to keep it a decent balance. We also don't get extraordinarily detailed into the, I guess, requirements of the mission. We want to keep it fairly open and creative for the students. And it is interesting to see what they can do on their own. From a safety standpoint, we're very strict and very specific. But from, you'll have biomedical experiments, you'll have aerospace experiments, you'll have every sort of a sundry payload combination you could imagine, and as well as a multitude of different options from the design of the rockets as well. So it's definitely not a one-size-fit-all type scenario. So a little about myself. My name is Andy Berger. Longtime Rocketeer with both NAR and Tripoli. I've been the launch director for Spaceport America Cup since the end of 2019. Before that, I was the launch operations director. Also, former senior technical advisor for the Base 11 Space Challenge. Some folks may have heard of that, others may not. It was basically a $1 million prize for trying to build a liquid engine, by liquid propelled engine to the edge of space. None of the teams managed to make it at this point, but they continue to work on, even though the event has closed out. I am Vice President, Experimental Sounding Rocket Association, member of NASA Houston Rocket, as well as the Tripoli Houston since about 2009, I guess. And my true love, my passion in life, has been working with university students. I don't know, for some reason, I just what's the best term is, I like the energy, I like the enthusiasm, I like the fact that I can share my experiences with them, guide them to better opportunities for success and safe launch than they would on their own. And I've also, through my work with Base 11, I was able to visit a large number of student rocketry teams, some of the biggest in the country. Like I visited and did surveys and reviews of Michigan, Purdue, and their fantastic lab they have there, San Diego State, Ohio State, University of Texas, New Mexico State, and quite a few more. So I got to see some of the best university rocketry teams, their laboratories, facilities, faculty, et cetera, et cetera. It gives me a really exciting perspective of all that. So a couple of the photos, we have obviously our team patch, team crest, a lot of the photos of the teams. The staff photo is to the left middle. Top center is the Australian team. And I had helped them so much that they required me to get into the photo, which was sort of funny. But one of my favorite teams, their very first year competing, and they almost won. They came in a very close second place, and they are coming back, and they say they're not going to lose this year in 2022. And again, some other neat photos. You'll see some Canadian teams and some of the launches in the background too. So throughout this, I'll try to intersperse as many of the photos of the event as we can. But Spaceport America's launch site is pretty impressive. So what is the Cup? It is an engineering competition. It's not your standard build and launch scenario where they either send you a kit or they specify the details of the rocket to the level where there's just a matter of how did you build yours better than the other team. This is a true engineering competition, and we have a significant number of aerospace professionals that are in our judging team that go over and really flesh out what processes they implemented to decide and to determine that their function and their design was safe and appropriate. We also have school teachers who will go through and grammar check everything. It's fun to watch the judging teams work because we've had plumbers on there, talking about hydraulics and fluid dynamics, and it's always very interesting. Each team is required to design, build, test, launch a rocket. And it's not a little rocket, and we define our payload as 8.8 pounds. It's not a small payload. It's a significant payload, and our target apogee teams have the opportunity to fly to either 10,000 feet or 30,000 feet. So if you think about it in your head and run the quick math, trying to get an 8.8 pound payload to 10,000 feet typically requires a minimum of an M, maybe an N or an O, and I apologize for my dog. I just knew she'd start barking the moment I started this presentation, so please forgive me for that. So it's a significant rocket in a 30,000 foot competitive event. 30,000 foot launches are typically only for teams that have already had significant successes in the past, either at our competition or another similar competition. Because quite often those 30,000 foot launches may be multi-stage, but again, they still have to carry that same 8.8 pound payload. Some teams get very excited about going into everything from a lunar rover as their payload, again, biomedical experiments, even environmental type experiments, et cetera, et cetera. And then some will just put in basically a dummy load into it, and obviously they lose a lot of points and really don't have a chance of winning the event. But that's certainly the option for the teams if they'd like to do that. The rockets are thoroughly reviewed, more so than probably any other event out there, by our range safety team, and we are right now in the process of completing the first. It's the first interim safety review, but it's actually the second time that our judges have reviewed and evaluated their design. First time was just to get into the competition, and so we had to pare them down. So we did a safety review and a judging review of the team. So they have 2 more interim reports to go, second and a third, and then a final on-site safety inspection later on. But the judges will evaluate their design criteria documentation, which is documented in their final report. This is something that's turned in usually about a month prior to the event, and it is considered the final publishable document. There's no more ideas or questions or concerns or anything like that. This is what they're flying, and it has all the appendixes and all the details in them. We've had documents come in that are over 300 plus pages, so a lot of information to evaluate. So let's see real quick. I'm going to double check comments if I could, just to make sure that I'm not losing. Is everybody hearing this? Just prompt real quick on the comment section. Hopefully things are going well and you guys can see all of this. Yeah, I think there is a delay. That's a good point, Tom. Usually, I guess, about 30 seconds or so. So I'll just wait for a quick comment. I guess to answer a quick question, do you require a team member to have a level 3 cert? This is the very first year, 2022, that we are requiring flyers of record. It does not have to be a team member. It can be a mentor, or it can be flyer of record that's either local to them. We have a few examples where we are actually going to be utilizing for instances such as teams from Turkey or India, where they have absolutely no access to any form of EEE high power rocketry or NAR or anything like that. We have assigned ESRA range safety staff to be their flyers of record, and that's basically the person that's going to sign the flight card. So yes, this is the very first year that we're doing that. Again, thank you for the comments. Let's get back to the presentation. So moving down, let's see. Competition categories. It's a lot more than just commercial solids. To say that the rocket itself is flying on Aerotech, CTI, Loki, whatever the case might be, that's certainly an opportunity. But as we all know with universities, they love to get into the experimental side as they start to mature. So we have not only research solids, but research hybrids. And we're, I think, just about the only event out there that has research biliquids. Not very many. That is really for the most advanced teams, but every single Spaceport America Cup has had a minimum of a single or multiple research biliquid. And I'm telling you, with the information I've learned about that since I've begun working with this competition, that is not an easy activity. Pulling a nice Aerotech single-use motor out and slapping it into a rocket versus trying to build a from-scratch biliquid injectors propulsion system is just, oh wow, such a world of difference, and so challenging from a financial and technical perspective that it's impressive we see teams do that. But there are definitely those teams that are out there. Colorado and Stanford this year are both submitting a biliquid. So it should be fun to watch. Most of these flights, again, are M, N, or O impulse class, which makes, again, the largest of rocket competitions. No other competition that we're aware of that will fly on these class 3, or excuse me, these level 3 impulse classes. Obviously, the larger the motors, they get a lot more detailed safety evaluations. But a majority of these flights are commercial CTI or Aerotech reloads, and they're heading to about 10,000 feet. So what we call the COTS, or commercial off the shelf. The COTS 10K category is pretty much all of the new spectating teams or spectator teams will compete, whether they've flown bigger rockets or not, doesn't matter. But when they begin, they have to prove that they can successfully build and launch this one specific category. So the COTS 10K has about 80 to 85% of the teams involved in it. So we certainly always provide those opportunities for the teams that have been out there many years and have a great deal of experience, which we call demonstration flights. These are teams that, great example, where you have Michigan, which is a phenomenal team, very, very advanced. Them competing in the same category year in, year over, gets a little bit not really exciting for them, and doesn't really push their skill set too much either. So we do have a demonstration flight category, which allows some of the teams to launch to extreme altitudes or high performance, high speeds, et cetera, and so with that has a whole regime of different safety requirements that they have to follow to do that. But having a launch site such as Spaceport America makes it much easier to do. So that is an opportunity, again, for the most advanced teams. We usually I think this year we have 12, maybe 13 multi-stage, but those are within the competition. They're not demonstration. And Spaceport America has for the first time put a limit on us, so we're maxed out at 50,000 feet for altitude. So a lot of our demonstration flight teams were hoping for 100 or 150,000. So they are seeking other opportunities for some of those launches. But nonetheless, we'll talk about how's this different than NAR's golden standard, the NASA student launch. Our event is 6 days. So they show up Monday for registration, safety briefings, training for the recovery teams, team photo, individual team photos, and a lot of other functions for Monday. It goes all the way through Saturday. That following Saturday evening is our actual closing award ceremony. So it is a significant amount of investment of time, both by the student teams as well as the volunteer corps. It's not a couple of days, but if you start talking about time and travel for some of these international teams, some of these teams, it's several days of travel there, several days of travel back, and then on top of that, the whole week of the event. So we keep them pretty busy the entire time. It is absolutely 100% international. 40% of our teams are international. And I'll show you a photo here in a second of where they're from, but they're from all over the place. There are only a few major countries that we haven't had members join. So we'll talk about more of that in a second. The rocket projects are larger. We have more than 15 teams this year that are flying O impulse motors. And some of those O impulse motors are 6-inch motors, not even the 98 millimeter. These are the 150 millimeter motors from CTI and some of the others. So these are some big rockets. 6-inch is a typical diameter for a competitive rocket. We've had some larger, but for performance reasons, not significantly larger. 8-inch is probably about the biggest you'll see, but they'll range anywhere from 11 to 12 foot in height up to 15 to 18 feet at the most. I think we'll typically see. Two stagers might get a little bit larger, but not much. Almost all the teams use commercial motors, but we do have research solids. They do have the opportunity to design, test, and build their own solids. And we do require significant testing under mentorship before they show up. So it is important that we have a very secure knowledge and confidence level that the motor that is going to be in the rocket for the competitive launch has been tested and has had a successful hot fire. And we do have a significant number of mentors, range safety staff members who have flown similar sized or larger research motors themselves. So that's the great thing about having the volunteers that we have is you cannot be a range safety person working on I have virtually no experience in hybrids. I would not be allowed to really evaluate a hybrid project. From that standpoint, we make sure that the safety reviewers are completely competent and considered experts in their particular areas for those reviews. We leave the payload challenge very broad. Again, I talked about that before, so I really don't need to hit that. But again, the students have the ability to define what they would like to see done. We prefer that the projects not be something specifically related to whether it be speed brake type systems or some type of vertical orientation management systems. We don't want the payloads to be involved in the flight of the rocket. They need to be payloads that would be something gathering data, something evaluating, something trying to prove some type of hypothesis, etc. That's probably one of the very few requirements or restrictions that we do put on the payload challenges. And then funding for this event. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but it's about 50-50 right now. Sponsorship funding has grown pretty significantly year over year since 2017. The student fees right now are ridiculously high. No one likes them. They should not be affecting students the way they are. But there are significant costs to the event, and several key focuses would be, just the rental of the convention center, and a lot of other functions similar to that. So we are working and we're gathering some pretty big sponsors. So hopefully in the next year and two, we will start seeing significant reductions in all of those fees. History of the Cup, 15th anniversary this year. And it was formerly known, and it's still sort of known, as the Intercollegiate Rocket Engineering Competition, also known as the IREC. I'm not even going to mention it, but the IREC, early years were operated out of the launch site at Green River, Utah. It is a site fairly close to where I believe the UROC organization is now launching, since they have lost the access to the Bonneville Salt Flats. Not a lot out there. One of the challenges we always ran into was there are not enough hotels to manage all those kind of people. So we do not have that problem in New Mexico, thank goodness. The event went international in 2011. We had two teams. We had a Canadian team and a Brazilian team join in the competition. And we'll show you again the representation on the map here in a little bit. And by 2014, IREC became the world's largest international rocket competition. 2017, the event transitioned to Spaceport America. Spaceport America reached out to us, and they were excited about the opportunity to host it. And the event was renamed the Spaceport America Cup. Very exciting. Love working with the Spaceport America staff, with Virgin Galactic being the principal partner, I guess, at Spaceport America. We actually, you drive right by the hangar that the Virgin Galactic rocket is, and the carrier vehicle and the all of that, historic stuff, sitting right inside that hangar. Very, very, very private. They're not opening doors and giving tours and that kind of stuff, unfortunately. But we'll see. We'll see what comes in the future out of all of that. Maybe if they start launching on a weekly basis in the future, it may impact us to a certain extent. But at this point, we're still good to go. 2019, we launched over 100 teams. 2022, we have 100. We are maxed out at 150 teams. We actually had to turn away more than 50 student teams that were wanting to participate. Again, I just mentioned we're capped at 150. We absolutely cannot go beyond that without extending the days of the week, and it just gets unmanageable beyond that. Some folks on the ESSER volunteers are already concerned that 150 teams may be too many. So I think we've got that mitigated. We've had a lot of thought and a lot of process during the COVID years to go through the logic of how we're going to do the flow. And I think we'll be in good shape, but we'll see what happens in June. We're expecting 2,000 students. First time. We have teams from Singapore and Malaysia. First time we've ever had Asian teams join, which was very exciting. We've got teams from Scotland, New Zealand, and I knew the Kiwis would be joining as soon as they saw the Australian team do so well, because they can't have any Aussies stepping up over top of them. So love that. It's going to be a great time. And one of my personal favorites, we have a very exciting team from Nepal. They're building a hybrid, and they've done some launches and done a lot of video, but such a teeny tiny small country with probably some of the worst launch sites possibly available. They don't really have large open sections of flat land out there. Nonetheless, exciting to have them on board, and they're going to add a real interesting twist to everything. So another neat thing, we actually have a trauma surgical, call it a tent, but it's really a little tiny hospital. It's a mobile unit from a local hospital in Las Cruces, and they basically bring out their emergency response team and set up out there every year for us. So far, I think the worst type scenario we've had, we haven't had any rattlesnake bites. It's almost always significant dehydration, some sunburn cases, and we had one gentleman, one of our volunteers, that had some heart palpitations. Again, it's extremely hot environment out there, but it's there in case there are any serious incidents There's a tremendous emergency response team action plan available. We've got helicopters on standby. We've got everything that's necessary in case there is any type of emergency event. And we thank our Spaceport America staff for driving a lot of that for us. We have fireworks. We have fire prevention. We have EMS, off-road EMS, which is fantastic, and they are right there on site during the event. A full 4x4 jacked up, looks like a ambulance, but it's just on big off-road tires and such. And it's there in case we run into problems. And the same thing from a fire station. They have a big off-road firefighting truck as well, which is fantastic. Spaceport America actually has launched sounding rockets. Up Aerospace has multiple contracts with NASA, with private individuals, with others, and they have launched just another maybe 1,000 feet down the road from where the students launched. They have their launch pad right there, and they have launched at least probably 8, maybe 9 successful flights to 70 miles and above. They have fantastic videos of all that stuff as well. So it actually has had some space launches from there. So very cool. International growth. I can tell you that none of these international events, and you may not even be familiar with these, but all of these generally spawned out of teams that competed at the IREC, saying, hey, how come we don't have our own event? Why do we have to travel 1,000,000 miles to the other side of the planet when we can be doing it ourselves? And these have become some huge events. It's exciting to see this. ESRA is looking forward to the opportunities to send representatives of ours to each of these events. Australian university competition is each year. We're looking at maybe extending out invitations to the top 3 winners of each of these events, and maybe waiving their fees or something that we can do for that. But Latin America Rocketry Challenge held down in Brazil. Fantastic group, lots of exciting videos and such coming out of there. Launch Canada has not. They started up just after COVID really rolled in, so they're planning on having their very first launch this August. It's part of the challenge is that Canada has very restrictive rocketry rules. So Launch Canada is really working closely with their DoD, with their version of the FAA, and we may see some significant changes in that space for Canadians, and opening up listen, if the US can do this, why can't we kind of scenarios. So pretty exciting stuff, all kicking off because these students, some of the students were able to come to the US and launch the Spaceport America Cup, and they're asking the questions, why can't we do this? Same thing with the brand new European Rocketry Challenge. They had a very successful event in Portugal just recently last year, and are already driving real hard to get it done again this year. And that's going to be a neat event. I am really hoping that I can make it to one of these events in the next year or so. But keep in mind, I mean, if you guys happen to be planning an event to any of these areas, you may want to take a look and see if you can line it up with those, because very exciting to see, and neat that it spawned out of this. A couple more photos. Upper left is the hangar, the hangar for Virgin Galactic. Amazing facility. The front side with the windows and the hangar doors, all of that. So back in 2017, during the first event, we could go inside of that, and they give us little tours and stuff. Now they've got everybody. I mean, the whole Virgin Galactic team is there. So they are very, very focused on their own activities. So no access to it. That hangar is at what's considered the horizontal launch area of Spaceport America. We are launching about 8 miles away from that in the vertical launch area. So it is a little bit of a drive to get out there, but when you're launching big old rockets, yeah, that's how it usually works. The entryway sign to Spaceport America, got some more photos of some student teams, and then some of the volunteers just goofing around. Some folks may recognize the guy in the blue shirt there in the bottom center. the left part of the photo, that's Gary Dickinson. So he is one of our Tripoli representatives on the board. Steve Lubliner is on, I think I saw his name pop up in the attendance here. He is our NAR representative. So fantastic having both the national organizations actively assisting us to ensure safety and to ensure that there's there's complete transparency. We'll just call it that. They attend our board meetings, and if they have concerns, if they have anything like that, they have the opportunity to step in and voice their concerns and get them addressed. So that's very, very important to ESRA, without a doubt. Right photo, bottom right, is one of our final safety inspection checks. So they've already gone through multiple design reviews with our range safety staff prior to attending. Then they had a physical safety inspection they had to get signed off. But even just before, this is at the point where the rocket motor is loaded, everything is prepped for going on the pad. They still have to go through a final range safety inspection process, and that's what that photo is there. Where's the event held? It is in, again, we're talking about Virgin Galactic at Spaceport America, southern New Mexico. So if you look at New Mexico, Las Cruces is a little bit just below that. Las Cruces is very, very close to El Paso, Texas. And so Las Cruces is a large town with a lot of hotels and a lot of restaurants, everything the students need. And now that they have the direct road, they have a very nice direct road going to Spaceport America. It's only about a 45-minute drive, maybe an hour drive at the worst, depending on if you're breaking the speed limit. It's like a 24-mile section of it that they set the speed limit to 45, and it's very challenging not to go faster on it. So, but they do put cops in there pretty regularly too. So, funny stories. Anyways, during the event, again, most of the team and staff reside in Las Cruces. There is another town, Truth or Consequences, which is to the west of Spaceport America. There are some teams that will get hotels in Truth or Consequences, about the same distance, I guess, in between those two. But all of our events, the conference center, the award ceremony, closing ceremony, etc., all of that is in Las Cruces. So that's where a majority of the teams stay, and almost all of the ESRA staff, etc. It is a hot, dry, sometimes nasty desert climate. Our 2017 event was the worst. We had temperatures in excess of 109. I think one day it got all the way up to 114. And when you're bringing teams from the Netherlands and Northern Europe, and same thing with teams from Canada and the northern U.S. states who have never ever dealt with that significant risk of one, they don't even understand the appropriate attire to wear in a desert climate. So we've addressed all those. We've actively gone through the process of training as far as what to wear. Instead of wearing your shorts and t-shirts and that kind of stuff, hiking boots, crazy large hats, and the hydration principles that all go along with that. So this is one of the largest events in Las Cruces and one of the top 10 in New Mexico. So that's pretty, we're pretty proud of that. And we certainly, I think the New Mexico state government always brings a senior member of their government, their governor's office, to the event to participate and watch, which is always great to have. We also have representatives from FAA. We have White Sands Missile Range representation. We've had owners of Aerotech. Gary Rosenfield has been out there almost every year, actually. And CTI actually has a facility at Spaceport America, so that's always wonderful. We have an on-site security force, professional security force, with off-road EMS, off-road fire services. Our waiver actually will go to space. 400,000 plus is possible, but Spaceport America staff have limited us to 50,000 without their personal review. They will allow higher flights, but they will need to be directly involved in that. Sorry. We have Wilson FX launch controllers, 32 pads this year. And so All of these are 17-foot, 15-15 rails. Many teams will bring their own. We try to limit that as much as we can. All of those were built by Tony Alcocer from Northern California, and he's an avid Rocketeer and our range safety officer. Minimum distance from any pad to the student teams is 1,500 feet. We have, depending on the size of the motor and the technology involved in it, some pads that are full 3,000 feet away. That's just for the student teams. For the spectators, they are closer to a half mile to 3/4 of a mile away. So again, that's 4,500 feet away for the most part. So it's a little rough from a spectator standpoint to see what's going on, and we're trying to address that utilizing our live streaming technology here. But the spectators, not a significant number yet, but we're still trying to build up on that one. Who runs the Spaceport America Cup? That's another question. So what are we? We're Experimental Sounding Rocket Association. It is just a group of volunteers that have been operating the IREC since the early days. We have partnered with Spaceport America. They again manage the range safety, crowd control, physical security, sort of facilities management side of it. They also manage our major sponsorships with their links to the big aerospace companies, and they coordinate the White Sands Missile Range air staff for us. We actually have an air controller from White Sands as part of our launch control crew. So they shut down White Sands. This will be considered one of their windows of air maintenance where they have no air activities from their side. And then they also will coordinate with any of the regional and municipal groups and others to ensure that they utilize these students and keep them busy and opportunities for them. But ESRA, we manage the competition. We run the rules, the registration, range safety, launch and recovery operations. So when it comes to the actual rocketry, that is all covered by the Experimental Sounding Rocket Association, whereas the Spaceport America staff, again, is mostly for the facilities and site support. Great picture in the bottom right. That is a dust storm. Yeah, we have a couple of those from time to time. We'll have afternoons that come in with crazy wind, blowing canopies all over the place. We have to shut down the range. We've even had a couple of rainstorms. But one of the greatest aspects of Spaceport America itself is the weather for the 99% of the time is perfect for launching rockets. And that's, it's usually fairly hot, very dry. The winds can range, but in the morning, almost always dead calm. And as the ground starts to heat up, obviously the winds will pick up. So teams take advantage of that. We have a large number of launches in the morning and a dwindling number in the afternoon. There's a week-long event, registration in September. Team announcements come out in October. We start the entire review processes in December. Again, the first one's due December, second one January. Actually, we've changed those dates a little bit. That is right. Second report February coming up, and then the third report will be in April. Final technical reports due in May, and then the event itself, which I probably should have put on the first slide. Good to know when it is. It's always that sort of third or fourth week in June, 20th through the 21st. If you're interested in attending as a spectator, or interested in attending, maybe volunteering, we would love to have you. Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about that towards the end. So Monday we'll do physical RSO inspection checks begin. Those will continue. Many teams will have red flag problems, wobbly fins, launch lugs not attached properly, using inappropriate shroud recovery and harnessing of the recovery gear, electronics not meeting the various checklists, etc. So wilderness safety training will take place for the teams that are part of the recovery. Interesting story with the recovery teams. When we send students out to go recover rockets, it's usually on your own type scenario at most high power launches. Definitely not in this scenario. Going out into a desert environment where there are rattlesnakes and various different nasty vermin that will attack you and cause lots of suffering. So significant amount of training goes into the student teams, but the other piece of it is the cell phone service is non-existent. So teams that get out into that arena that do get into trouble have a very significant challenge of trying to communicate those problems back. We ran into that on the first year in 2017 and addressed that. Each team that goes out has a backpack, a recovery backpack, that not only has its own built-in GPS transceiver in it, so that we know where the team's at all times, but it also has high-power RF communication system. So they have to physically report in every 15 minutes and tell us where they're at, what's their status and ETA of looking for their rocket. And then when they find their rocket, we have the ability to pinpoint where that rocket was found. So we are beginning to collect a database of it launched at this pad and recovered at this pad. So some of that data is going to be extremely useful to various different national organizations and Spaceport America as well. So we doing that. So we never had another issue since then. If a team does report that one of the team members is starting to suffer, we immediately dispatch support teams. So that's working out fairly well. Let's see. At this point, last day or Tuesday itself is an all-day conference at the convention center. We have our opening ceremonies early, about 7 a.m. in the morning. We continue the range safety inspections. The judging that each student team has to set up, they have a table. They set up posters and they start presenting their rocket project to spectators, to the judges, to anyone that's interested. Other teams love walking around, seeing what some of the other projects are out there. And quite often we will ask them to open the rocket up and let's look inside. And they're happy to do so. So it's great. And then obviously the end of Tuesday, we do that massive group picture. Let's see. Week-long event. Again, Wednesday through Saturday was out of Las Cruces. Now we've moved to the VLA at Spaceport America. Each team will get up very early morning. Some of them will show up on site at 4 a.m. We try to limit that as best we can because we're not wanting to get up at that point in time and supervise them. But again, a lot of progress, a lot of excitement from that standpoint. Teams prepare, they'll launch and recover their rockets. If they launch on the very first day, they get bonus points. And if they do launch, then they're asked to assist and help other teams as necessary, particularly teams that have lost their rockets and can't find them quite often, especially the Aussies, who are very, very, I guess, accustomed to that nasty heat. Quite often they'll spend almost their entire day, extra days out there helping search for lost rockets. To avoid a lot of that, we are now requiring GPS tracking on every rocket. In fact, every part of every rocket. So a couple of new requirements for that'll help move things along quickly. Saturday, we stop launching at 12 noon and we have our closing ceremony in town. We used to have a big meal, but that's turned into a huge cost. So now it's sort of an ice cream social kind of thing. But at the convention center, we have our keynote speakers from some of our big sponsors that will be chatting and talking to the students about future industry and future career options. Is the event safe? I can tell you the early years were not really pretty. There's a lot of feedback in the past about don't get involved with IREC. It's it's a very scary type of launch, and that both NAR and Tripoli were I wouldn't say actively warning people, but very rightly so. It did not have a very good reputation. A new leadership team came on when we switched to Spaceport America in 2017, and so we started basically bringing in level 3 certified flyers from NAR and Tripoli, and we took over control of range safety and launch operations. Tony Alcocer is a better picture of him. In fact, that's him out at Black Rock, famed desert for high power monster projects. Tony Alcocer has been with us since that time, and he's been one of the key drivers in that transition. Myself, Harry Spears, and Randy Merrick from the Houston area. Harry's from Dallas. we all attended 2017 and were part of Tony's team to try to swing the organization around to follow Tripoli and NAR safety code for the event. So since that point, now it's completely managed and controlled by senior NAR and Tripoli L3 flyers. We've got L3 CCs, we've got TAPs, and board members. And this year we'll have board members from both Tripoli and NAR actively following into it. And that right now we are specific to the TRA safety code because it includes the research side, so that we do have that opportunity. But we are following that code, and with the exception of the liquids, all of those flights will be under a Tripoli safety code and will be considered a Tripoli appropriate launch. So again, the statistics as far as the improvements in flight outcomes have gone up every single year. The number of CATOs have been cut in half. The number of shreds, various different other incidents that most Rocketeers don't like to see have dropped significantly. And at this point, that percentage actually is better than a majority of the local high power rocketry club hobby groups. I can tell you it's better than Tripoli Houston's success, and these are very large rockets. So and most others would agree that it's higher than their own home group as well. So it's a good thing. We've turned the corner, I guess, when it comes to that, and we're hoping someday to sort of be highlighted as this is how you do it type scenarios. So COVID has been a disaster for this event, just like it has for almost everything else. We canceled outright the 2020 event. 2021 was converted to a virtual event similar to this Excel events. State of New Mexico controls all of that. They tell us whether we can have the event or not. Things are still looking good for 2022. We're still approved. We're still able to do large activities. The indoor conference, trying to jam 2,000 people into that little convention center, that might be the only sort of challenge, but it really depends on the outcome, and hopefully there's not another variant that comes rolling into us. Many international teams are struggling to get visa approvals because of COVID. So fingers crossed that they'll be able to get that addressed. We have, for this year, a environmental health and safety professional who is advising us on COVID policy and actions. And it's been a phenomenal opportunity to chat with him because he's highlighted, he's got the latest data on everything, and he's highlighted many functions that we need to be doing to ensure that we're being safe and we're following both federal and state guidelines. So what about the teams that participate? It's available to any university rocketry team from around the world. We've had many Boy Scout groups and other high schools and others attempting to sneak in. They really do. They'll call themselves the University of whatever. And unfortunately, we've caught them fairly early on. But we also have groups that have 5 or 6 people from one school and 3 or 4 from another, and scenarios like that. So we don't allow all-star teams. We really would like to see this almost become like I wouldn't call it an NCAA athletic event, but it really should be school against school against school. Everything that we look at from a competition standpoint, it is very similar to what you would consider for those NCAA events. The steroid testing will begin probably in 2023, but well, no, we're just kidding. But nonetheless, it's exciting to see the competition, but it's also even more exciting to see when the teams work together. One team helping another that's struggling. So, and again, we're turning away a lot of teams, so the demand is really high. Here it is. Here's what I was trying to get to. Here's the distribution of teams all around the country. Obviously, a large majority in the United States, a lot of Canadian teams. I think we have more than 15, maybe 20 in Canada. Europe is growing, continuing to grow. Australia, we had 1 team in 2019 from Australia. And I don't know why the New Zealand team's not showing up, but we've got 3 teams from Australia and I think 1 from New Zealand. Brazil, very, very active. We've got a pot of universities in Brazil. And then India, obviously the Indian teams are very, very active. We do have, again, the Malaysian team, Singapore, etc. I don't know why they're not showing up here either. This may be an older photo. So, but we do have Singapore, Malaysia. One of our key focuses in 2023 is Japanese teams. For a country that has a tremendous space program, we have never had a Japanese team apply, but we know they compete in other similar collegiate technology type competitions. They go every year to Australia for the Solar Car Challenge. So we are looking to try to get some connections with JAXA and with the industry and with the universities in Japan to get some rocketry groups going. I think once they find out what's going on and the peer pressure hits, it'll be impressive. They'll come over here and maybe show some of the rest of the teams how engineering should be done. So that's always fun. So, all right. Trophies, cash prizes, bragging rights. Yes, we've got all of it. We have vendors that come in and they sponsor a payload challenge or a onboard video challenge or other types of challenges with prizes, specialized prizes for those. Tuesday conference session, major recruiters from aerospace industry set up in the hallway. So they're accepting resumes, they're interviewing people. We actually have interview rooms available for those, and they just look at it as a meat market. And right now it's very exciting in that industry because the demand is higher than it's ever been. And a lot of these aerospace companies are struggling. So it's pretty exciting to see all that activity take place. They'll have internship applications, and they give out a lot of neat swag. So the baseball caps and the little rubber rockets and all the neat little things they bring along, even handing out shirts, etc. That's where I got my very first SpaceX shirt, was from one of the hallway vendors that was there. So again, a growing number of experienced NAR and EEE L3s, and again, big kudos to Stephen Lubliner for his assistance from the NAR side. Really hadn't capped the NAR significantly enough, and now we've got a large and growing number of L3s from NAR that are participating and helping us out. Kickoff meeting, you can see this is the largest room inside the convention center, so a completely packed house. And then we do the presentations where the tables are set up and each team has their rocket available. Once we get out to the VLA, the bottom left corner down here, that is the canopy jungle that the universities will set up. Many teams will bring their trailers, etc. Others will just set up their canopies, and they tie them all together because they find out real quick when the windstorms come rolling up. It's hard to pull an entire tent jungle away when they're all attached to each other. And then this was that 2017 dinner inside the hangar, which was phenomenal. But that's what the inside of that Virgin Galactic hangar looks like with everything out of it. But it's completely full, jam-packed with rockets and such in it now. A couple of flights. MIT's launch. You can see flyaway rail guides. That was a high-performance rocket. Colorado State. This was very first year, 2017, their liquid engine had a very successful flight. They will be trying it to redo that flight here this coming June. One of our fully loaded flight lines where we'll have 8 rockets in a set, and then right across the road on the other side, you see the truck. On the other side of the truck is another set of 8 pads. So we'll be launching upwards of 6. You notice at the top of these pads, there are these little doohickeys. Those are GoPro cameras that are up there to get amazing video of the rockets shooting by as they go up. So anyways, kind of waiver, we talked a little bit about that. White Sands manages the airspace military testing site, FAA waiver to all commercial traffic from ground to space. We had the FAA regional director on site and was impressed by the event. So it was nice to see that. And then again, all WSMR activity stops during the Cup. So some more neat photos, teams loading up on some of these pads. These are not little pads. These are beefy pads. Rockets will range 50 pounds upwards to maybe 120 pounds, about as big as you can get on one of the ESRA pads. And then the launching process and the transportation process is a challenge. You're trying to get 8 to 16 high power rocketry teams out to the pads all at once, and it's got to roll smooth. The bottom right photo, we have Rick Machek from FAR, the Friends of Amateur Rocketry. He's our pad manager lead, and he's got the process down very well. He trains all his pad managers, and it is a very formalized and very structured process, and it takes a little bit longer to get all the rockets ready to go, but it is definitely proven time and time again to avoid us having little incidents and such at the pads. Judging criteria, technical poster, podium sessions are all presented to the judge panel. And the judging panel is completely different than range safety. We really separate those two, and we try to put a hard block in between the two. The range safety staff are focused on safety. Safety, safety, safety. That's really it. As far as the overall quality of the build, quality of the documentation, quality of the design, the research that goes into the design, all of that is done by a judging panel. And again, these are more of the less of the high power rocketry amateur experts and more of the professionals from industry and similar. So we do our best to try to segregate those so we don't step on each other's toes or get confused on who's responsible for what. Written technical report covers concept, requirements, design, CDR, PDR, flight readiness review. That whole process is very formalized through the review. Quality and competency of the final design, amount of student research RD systems versus what they bought. That certainly adds more value. If they built their own electronic flight system, that gives them bonus points. We always back that up with a commercial unit, so that is a requirement as well. But if they built one, that gives them bonus points over a team that just threw 2 stratologgers into their rocket. Rocket flight performance is included in the scoring. So a team that had a fantastic everything, the documentation, the judging side of it was phenomenal, great documentation, but they happen to have an incident during the rocket flight, likely will not be able to win an event. They might be able to place, but the competition has gotten so significant that it requires almost perfect everything. You need to have a perfect flight, fantastic documentation. The team needs to work well together and just have A pluses across the board if you're planning on winning one of your categories. And the categories range, you might be competing against 80 to 100 teams in the COTS 10K event, but if you're in the SRAD hybrid 30K, you may only have 5 or 6 teams to compete against. So it really depends on which category you're going. But if you're going for the overall winner for the entire cup, you have to have a nearly perfect everything. And so it is exciting to watch the judges do their final scoring. And it is very challenging. They spend upwards of 4+ hours reviewing all the final scores and debating over which team deserves which set of points. And then obviously professional conduct, procedures, checklists, that kind of stuff. More photos. We've got a recovery team discovery. They found one of these tarantulas. Not particularly worrisome. They don't come out often during the day, but for the group of folks, there's a small group of folks that spend the nights out there. You can grab your flashlight and just sort of shine it out in the ground, 50, 75 feet out, and their eyes light up at night. And they're all over the place out there at night. But there are rattlesnakes. We have seen some rattlesnakes out there and some other bitey things that aren't good. University of Minnesota, one of my favorite teams, very advanced team, had a phenomenal payload, a Mars rover. And unfortunately, the rocket Keynote during that year, and the payload did not quite have a successful recovery. Anyways, let's see. Mentoring this year and in years past has continued to increase. We are requiring flyers of record this year. So flying under EEE Flight Safety Code requires you to have a certified person signing the flight card responsible for that particular rocket. So each team that is flying in the COTS category or the SRAD solids categories must have a level 3 flyer of record. But the mentoring is something that is being driven through NAR and Tripoli. That's why I included their logos below. Even the international teams, Canadian teams with CAR, the United Kingdom teams with UKRA, they are now getting actively drug into these things. And it's pretty exciting to watch that the student teams always wanted to do things on their own, but now they're seeing the value of driving or getting mentoring from these groups, as well as being able to fly at their launches. So it's a win-win across the board. And mentoring will always, forevermore, be a critical piece of university teams during this competition. So again, if you're happening to be looking to try and get involved in here, maybe take a look at some of the teams that are having rocketry teams and reach out to them saying, I'd love to help. Some teams will push you away or not know who you are, but again, you've got to make some inroads in there and make sure you're adding value to them. But for the Cup, it's going to be a requirement, and it's highly pressed right now. So Payload Winners, I'd like to include these. One of the custom launch towers. This was a tower that Texas A&M always brings out to their events, and Berger Galactic has been one of our major sponsors, and Launch Control on top of one of the buildings. Luckily, we're not there anymore, so we've got some much nicer functions there. So, do students have to certify to fly these rockets? So I think I've talked that a couple of times. In past years, no, they did not. We flew under the FAA exception, but from this standpoint, we are limited to that. So let me switch back real quick. Wow, I'm already over time. Anyways, I apologize for going over. I'm already way over, but anyways, I'll keep going as quickly as I can, and I'll get through your questions here in a second. So TRA insurance will cover a majority of students out there now. We are requiring you to take the $10 membership fee or a NAR membership as well. So very excited about leveraging both of those for insurance. For the 2022 event, all the students that are flying commercial research solids have their flyer records. And then the bi-liquid projects, we only got 2 teams. They have a separate launch facility nearby, so would not be included in that Tripoli flight section. They would still follow the code in every facet they have, but anyways, let's see. Closing ceremony awards, again, some more photos. Growing number of sponsors. Here's some of the big sponsors that we have. Got a new one coming in, hopefully this year, with I can't even mention the name yet, but it's going to be a huge sponsor, maybe the biggest one we've ever had. So pretty excited about that. But again, a large number of sponsors helping us out, and the more we can get in, and the more money these teams provide, the more we can lower the fees to the students, which is our end goal. Future vision, not going to change significantly as we maxed out capacity. Not going to go any bigger than we already are. Virgin Galactic is active now. They've had a launch, and they will likely start launching more actively near future. So we've got to make sure that our little window, that one little week that we're going to be out there, and it's only going to be the Wednesday through Saturday, that we can make sure that doesn't affect them. But that'll all be between Spaceport America and Virgin Galactic. We want to support other competitions, particularly international events, the Eurox and Australian Latin American Challenge, Canadian Challenge, etc. We also, we are directing teams, particularly teams that didn't get accepted to our events, that they should absolutely be looking at events at Friends of Amateur Rocketry. The Argonia Cup is another event, and of course, NAR's student launch. So, those are all opportunities so teams can get more experience. Quite often teams get turned down due to their lack of experience, the fact that they're brand new, they've never competed at anything before. So, giving them the opportunity to support these other competitions is great. Many of our teams competed all these events as well and used them as the ability to test fly their Spaceport America rocket. So we are looking at developing a high school program. There's a lot of activity in that space. A lot of pressure coming down from state of New Mexico and others. And one of the projects that ESRA would like to do is looking at trying to attract more of the minority side, and particularly female engineering students to compete. You'd be impressed and amazed by the number of females that are already competing, but it's still a very small percentage compared to the males from that standpoint. But with that said, let's say the historically Black college and university community, we've never had one of those universities compete. We want to change that. And even looking at trying to get into some of the smaller community colleges to compete versus the Stanfords, the MITs, University of Texas, Ohio State, some of those kind of things, trying to attract some of those. We do get a few here and there, but right now it seems to be focused on the bigger organizations. And then SRO needs to get more formalized with our organization, including membership, et cetera. But all that's for our strategic advisory board, and that's what they've told us that they're working on actively. So if you're interested in helping, we're looking for L2, L3 flyers that are experienced working with student groups. Those are, the key focus of the people that we're looking for. If you want to be a judge and you have some engineering background, fantastic. I mean, mostly that involves reading papers, and if you want to come on site, you can spend the week there evaluating the teams in person. So we always need that as well. You've got experience working with national events. Fantastic. We love that. Many projects are in the specialized research and experimental side. So that type of experience is that. And as always, ESRA offers a high salary, very flexible hours, and lots of fringe benefits. Our 401k is amazing. Great health. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Oh, well, okay. You get a shirt. you get a staff shirt. It's a really nice shirt though. It's like an Under Armour shirt. But yeah, wouldn't that be nice to have all that? Boy, we wouldn't have any volunteer issues at all from there. All right, and that's it. Dun-dun. Let me switch back over. And so yeah, 12 minutes over. That's better than past years. All right, questions. Post your questions, and I will try to go through these as quickly as I can. All right. Again, an announcement to the links in the comments section. Holy cow, do I seriously have 68 people on? That's a record. Way to go. Thanks, everyone. All right, amazing. All right, questions coming through. Let's see here. Hey, Robin, how are you? Thank you for joining. Robin's one of our new volunteers from South Carolina. Yay. All right, great audio, video. Howdy. Yes. Good to go. There's also a couple of polls in there. Hopefully everyone's been. Did I not launch that poll? Oh, that's not good. Anyways, I attempted to put some polls out there. Let's see. Oh, Gary, good point. Teams from Japan go to our list. You're right. And Ken Biba actually is on our volunteer staff. I will take a note of that for sure. And reach out to them because that would be great. But again, if you have any questions, I don't see any additional questions in there. I think we answered the level 3 cert. Yes, absolutely. We have about 22 teams right now from India and Turkey that are still looking for L3 mentors, and ESRA will be assigning people to be their flyers of record in the next week or so. Let's see. Level 2 volunteers needed? Absolutely, without a doubt. Spectators join the conference. Yes, actually, I think that you can. There are week-long passes, and then there are day passes that are available. And if you have the week-long pass, you can attend the conference. Absolutely. I'm sorry, Q&A. Wow, I didn't even see the Q&A. Let's see. How do teams usually ship their rockets overseas? Wow, that's a great one. Many teams will just check it into baggage and then they purchase the motors well in advance, months and months in advance, with a vendor such as Animal Motor Works or Moto Joe or somebody like that, and the vendor will just bring the motor to the event and give it to them. Everything else can be packaged and loaded into an aircraft without too much problems. I mean, lithium batteries, that kind of stuff. Black powder has to be done somewhere else. So everything but the energetics can typically go onto aircraft fairly easily. We do have some bigger teams, particularly hybrids and maybe liquids. We had a Polish liquid team years past. They had to put everything into a shipping container and ship that months in advance, all of their ground support equipment, etc. So that is typically how they ship their gear. But all the energetics are usually purchased in the United States. Yep, 2018. Thank you. Let's see. The teams are only allowed to launch once. If they have a failure or if there's something that breaks on their rocket, they have an opportunity to repair it. But if they launch and fail, they do not have an opportunity to launch again. All right, let me go ahead and answer these live. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Launch teams answered that one. Flight success rate. What percentage of vehicles have a nominal ascent and safe recovery? 2017, I would say roughly, and we actually did do the numbers on this one. I'm not remembering correctly, but it was slightly above 50%, which was atrocious and horrible. When we did the investigations, a large number of those were motorcados. The commercial motors are not being put together properly. Missing an O-ring, lack of lubrication, whatever the case might be. Smoke grain wasn't installed properly. 9 out of 10 times that was typically the case. The shreds, as it migrated, the shreds and CATOs a little bit different between each other, but the majority of CATOs, the recovery challenges, where the main didn't come out or the main came out on top or whatever the case might be, those numbers continue to be fairly significant, but have dropped, with the reviews and evaluations, et cetera. Plus, the team maturity levels have increased significantly. They are doing very well with that, and they're practicing these launches when they can prior to the event. But we still see a fair number. But as all the ESRA volunteers have stated, we're up to a level now that it's no different than a typical high power launch at a NAR or a Tripoli section, from that standpoint. If it's an individual that comes out, if they were to run all their numbers, Spaceport America Cup statistics are roughly about the same as that. We've had a tremendous support from Animal Motor Works, assisting the teams in instruction and supervision of building those motors. So the number of CATOs from improper motor building dropped by about 80% in 2019. The number of shreds, which is great because whenever you have a CATO, it stops the entire event. Very challenging when you've got motor pieces in the ground on fire. But the fire trucks from Spaceport America love that because they never get to put out any fires out there because there aren't any significant rocket launches. So they get to go use their toys and enjoy that a lot. The shreds over the last couple of years, teams are pushing their rockets pretty hard. They were more pronounced, I guess, but probably numbers wise about the same. Interesting from that standpoint. So hopefully that answers that question. COVID stuff. Let's see. Are we going to limit the number of attendees per team? No. What we have had to do in the past, particularly with the U.S. teams showing up with 40, 50, even 100 students, we have a per Rocketeer fee. And that was the only way we can manage it. And that's one fee that will not change. And right now it's $50 per student to attend. So most of the teams will show up with anywhere between 7, sometimes as many as 15 team members. So it is limited. We just cannot allow these Purdue, for example. Purdue would bring out 400 people if they could. And so, we had to put sort of a poison pill in there with that Rocketeer fee so we could mitigate that one. But that typically will limit them per se. From the COVID standpoint, we're going to be doing new things like checking temperatures, obviously anyone feeling sick, et cetera, on the team. The team is being forced to report that, and that person will have to remain in their hotel, whatever the case might be, get tested, et cetera. Anyways, let's see. What you do? Group picture. Oh, well, yeah. Oh, always. Group picture will not change. In fact, we're going to make it even better. We'll have drones this year for the group picture. But last little piece I want to mention to everybody is for this year, the very first time ever, we're going to be live streaming it. SLI has done it in the past, done a fantastic job of it. But we're hoping to blow everyone's socks off with the live stream. I won't tell you all of the little details, but I'll show you something. Hold on 1 second. Oh, I'm sharing my screen, so let me stop sharing so you can see my lovely office. Hopefully you can see this. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but this actually has, what is it? It's got the word Starlink on the back of it. So as part of our live stream, we need high-speed internet, and it should be available almost anywhere with a Starlink now. So we're going to be live streaming the event. We've got robotic cameras, got a large production team, and with the drones and all of that's going to be streamed live to the internet. We're hoping to turn it into almost like an ESPN type of sport where we have team interviews, advertisements, we have sponsorships, we have all of these functions going on there, and very excited about that. That's going to allow people to experience the event versus just watching a couple of captured videos from student teams like has happened in the past. But very excited about that. Looking for people with experience in live streaming, whether it's at your local church or wherever. If you've got some strong video editing skills, we could absolutely use you from that standpoint. So with that, I'm going to wait maybe a few seconds and think at that point we'll probably close this out. Still have 69 people on. That's impressive. Again, thank you, Gary, for that comment. That is great. I do appreciate it. Again, thank you always to Steve Lubliner. All of his support's been fantastic throughout all of this. And maybe next year we'll do a presentation on how to live stream, how to do it inexpensively for maybe your local rocket club. So you never know. That would be a lot of fun. So let's see, double check Q&A, make sure there aren't any new ones. Yep, we answered that one. Answered that one. Okay. Again, just looking at all these attendees, this is definitely a record for me. I've never had that many. All right, I'm going to end the polls real quick. Oh, look at that. I got 6 people interested in helping. Yay. Inside the comments, inside the chat window, please, at the very top, I have links to all of the important websites, etc. So our YouTube video channel, again, please subscribe. We actually need to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're about 800 now. Fantastic video for the 15th anniversary that was put together. The call to competitors video, another fantastic video was put together. And then the general student information for the competition is at soundingrocket.org. And general Spaceport America Cup information is at spaceportamericacup.com. So with that, I think that sort of answers everyone. And I appreciate everyone's attendance and enjoy the rest of the conference. I will do so as well. And any questions, My email address is pretty simple. It's the word rocket, and then my last name Berger, which is Berger, and that is at gmail.com. So it's Rocket Berger, all one word. And again, spell it Berger, not BUR. And then at gmail.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And you can also find links on those two websites for volunteering. So please do so if you're interested. We'd love to have you. It's a huge commitment, without a doubt. But we can also do stuff, help you. You can assist us remotely as well with reviewing papers and that type of stuff. So, all right, that's it. I will go ahead and stop the broadcast. And thank you, everyone, for your time. Take care.